Once the area is completely covered, mix up 1 to 2 liters of resin at a 1 to 2% hardener ratio and begin soaking the mat using a 2 to 3 inch brush. A greater hardener ratio will speed the curing time, but will also decrease the working time, so mix according to your own experience and speed. Be sure to wear your fume mask when working in the trunk, and wear your gloves to prevent resin from getting on your hands. Now assemble the two pieces together using wood glue and brad nails. The strength comes from the glue, but the brad nails will hold them together while the glue dries. Use brad nails that are about 50% longer than the material being nailed when creating the rings. So for 3/4 inch MDF, you'd want to use 1 1/8 inch brad nails. This will ensure a strong bond without being so long that the nails protrude through the second. The tape will come off easily in the final stages of the curing process, because the heat from the resin curing will have softened the tape adhesive. Otherwise, the tape will not come off as readily. Most of this will not be a problem except around the edges of the enclosure, where we'll need to attach the fabric and carpeting for the enclosure. If you can't peel this area off by hand, you can now drape the cloth over the enclosure and press one side in place. Then, starting on one side, pull the fabric semi-tight and press against the enclosure back. When pulling, do not pull so hard that the piece warps. Only pull it tight enough to eliminate sags in the fabric. Mix up a small quantity of body filler and apply to any low spots on the enclosure surface. This enclosure has a dip in it where there was a fold in the fabric. For dips such as this, apply a large quantity of filler to the area and then smooth it with a plastic spreader. Work across the dip and not with it, or else your spreader will follow the contour and the dip will remain. For extra strength, you can add a glue block along the length of the mating surface edge. This is a highly recommended step that only takes an extra few minutes. While the glue is drying, we can create the woofer mounting surface. Once the piece is wrapped and you're satisfied with how tight the fabric is, you can begin stapling the fabric to the MDF. Staple along the ridge of the MDF and fabric where we added the rabbeted edge. You can use this ridge as a guide for your staple gun to speed up the process. For this larger enclosure, we'll mix up 2 to 3 liters of resin and saturate the fabric as before with a 3-inch brush. Don't be afraid to soak the wrapped edges of the enclosure because the staples will keep it from pulling up. Soak all of the fabric that is exposed except the inner portion of the amplifier enclosure. Only soak up to the vertical edge of this section. Otherwise, the fabric will bond to the inside and it will be additional work to remove it. After all of the edges have been covered, begin spraying the rest of the enclosure. Spray evenly by keeping your motions smooth. Start your spraying before and end it after the portion that you're spraying. Let's start with the tweeter pod by taking a look at this sail panel. This is a 2-part panel with a press-fit cosmetic cover and a screwed-on base piece. Other sail panels may be in one piece. Whatever kind you're working with, it's important to note the method of attachment because you'll want to ensure your pod doesn't interfere. We're going to bond the MDF ring to the plastic panel, so we need to sand down the plastic in that area to get a better bond. An 80 grit disc in the DA sander will do the trick. A roll-lock disc would be faster, but there's a greater chance of removing too much material. Since the pieces have already been prepped, we can apply the spray dye. These are similar to a can of spray paint, but are a sprayable dye. They're about $10 a can and are available through auto body or auto parts stores. If you can't find the exact color you need, your auto body supplier should be able to mix it up for you. This is the completed door panel in the vehicle. Compare it with the original stock panel and you'll see the cosmetics match the rest of the vehicle, and most importantly, the panel fits well and doesn't interfere with the door closing. Door panels that are created in this way are quick and relatively easy to do and still give a custom look without a lot of extra work.